Welcome to Red Tiger Chronicles. This is Sifu Paul Mason, owner of Red Tiger Martial Arts in Cincinnati, Ohio, and this podcast is to help some of the most extraordinary martial artists that walk among us tell us their stories. Thank you for joining us today. We have Master Vincent Meng of Meng's Martial Arts International in the studio. And just a little bit about young Master Meng. He began his martial arts journey at the age of 3 under his father, Grandmaster Benny Meng. At age 6, he earned his first degree black belt. As a high school wrestler, he was a 3-time letterman and team captain his senior year and was recognized as the first team in Greater Western Miami Valley District. He's a 4th degree black belt in Taekwondo through the Kukikwan. In 2017, he won the 7th World Traditional Kung Fu Championship, gold. In 2018, gold medal placed in the 6th World Wushu Championships. In 2018, he was a USA Taekwondo National Collegiate team member. Also that same year, he was at the first IWUF Wing Chun World Championships, also winning gold. He's a 3-time world champion. By the age of 21, he qualified for 4 national teams in 4 separate combat sports in a single year and now holds 3 world titles, the only person to have such an accomplishment in the world of martial arts sports. 2019, he was a team member of Team USA for the 7th Wushu World Championships. In 2020, he earned his bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship at the University of Dayton. 2022, he gold medaled again at the at the World Wushu Championships. At the 13th Pan American Wushu Championships, he placed bronze. He is a 5th degree black belt, master level. And he was at the FISU World University Games as a USA team member. And just last month, he won his first pro mixed martial arts fight and now has a MMA record of 1-0. So thanks for being here, Master Vincent. And to start us out, maybe tell us a little bit about how you got started in martial arts.
Yeah. First off, thank you very much for having me. And I'm excited, and these are always fun. So I'm excited to, do this and have some fun.
Cool.
Have some fun discussions. And I just do want to clarify, that was my first amateur MMA bout. So,
okay.
Yes, it wasn't a professional bout. But, however, I will be making my professional debut here in a couple of months, or I guess in 6 weeks. I'll be traveling to Brazil, making my professional debut, doing a professional bout with a new league called Taekwondo Combat. So, Combat Taekwondo, excuse me. But that's something maybe we can talk a little bit later. But,
yes, sir.
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned it. I started, of course, naturally being, there's 2 sides of the story. The story that's, I guess, more exciting to tell is I was heavily influenced or brainwashed, sometimes is a word we use, by Power Rangers. At the age of 2, I was just in love, and that's all I cared about. I wanted to be the Red Power Ranger, and the short story is, I wanted to be a Power Ranger, and that's how I became self-motivated to get involved with martial arts. But, of course, it was an easy pathway, having, my parents both being lifetime martial artists. My mother, on my mother's side, my entire family is involved in martial arts. And, so Power Rangers was the motivation, and my parents were kind of the guide throughout the entire journey.
That's awesome. I love Power Rangers so much.
Yes.
I wish that I would have used that to get myself into martial arts when I was a kid, but I did not.
Yeah.
Don't ask me the amount of years I was the Red Power Ranger for Halloween.
You were same. I remember, I think it was my kindergarten class. I was a Red Power Ranger for Halloween, and we had 5 Red Power Rangers. It was pretty fun.
So I hate to admit this, but yeah, when I was in college, me and my now brother-in-law, we got into watching the Power Rangers as well. But we were definitely Team Tommy. We were Green Ranger.
Yep. Fair.
I would say he was like the OG.
Yeah.
Yeah, and R.I.P. that guy.
Yeah.
I guess
Oh,
he passed not too long ago.
Yeah, pretty recently.
But yeah, MMA guy in real life himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it kind of like the stars just kind of aligned. I mean, you kind of had no choice in a cosmic sense.
Mm-hmm.
Your mother being from the family she's from, and your dad being so vested in martial arts as well.
He even said on his episode, he was like, until you're 18, like in my house, you don't have a choice. You're going to do martial arts.
And yeah, I think I do. Maybe he kind of went over this too, but it's especially as I get older, it's something I'm understanding more and something that, I can carry on with my children, future children. But it's education. It's part of the education, not so much of like, oh, you got to compete or like he never required us to compete. Actually, that was never one of the requirements, but to go through the education, the life skills that martial art teaches. That was what was required. And yeah, I can say today that's like, I wouldn't be where I am without it. So
yeah,
very, very grateful.
So yeah, I guess I was wondering like what keeps you motivated to keep reaching these new levels, these new plateaus, and just kind of climbing that ladder.
I think even just at a young age, I always maybe from my parents is just reach for the stars. Always been told, always been kind of having the mindset of reaching for the stars. If I'm going to do something, you might as well, be the best at it, or at least try to be. And in everything we do, since myself and my two brothers were growing up, that we would be constantly reminded, if you're going to do something, you might as well do it well. You might as well give it your best. And so since my first big ambition was, be a world champion, go to the Olympics, and that was my focus since middle school. And, with the natural path of everything, getting that world championship title in 2017, it's like, oh, awesome, world champion, but how many world champions out there? Right. A lot. So it's like, let's do something that, could be unique. And that's kind of how where I am today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it sounds like you got a lot of positive reinforcement, positive motivation from your folks. Were there any times where do you go through any times, or especially when you were younger, where you just felt like you didn't feel like doing something, or you just
what? Yeah, it's I tell this story all the time. It's if my high school wrestling coach ever listens to this podcast, love you, Coach Bear. But I started wrestling in third grade. And I remember the first day of practice, my father put me in, and I had no idea what wrestling was. I wasn't even exposed to WWE or anything like that. I didn't know wrestling. And then I come in with shorts and a t-shirt, and he's like, oh, it's like martial arts. And he's like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Yay. And I go in, it's a bunch of kids, probably like 50 kids in a room, t-shirt and shorts. I'm like, what? This is not martial arts. Where's my uniform? Where's our, and so, of course, in that mindset as a third grader, I was like, this is not martial arts. I don't want to do it. So that was probably, wrestling was, I would say probably not until the end of sophomore year was when end of freshman year, beginning of sophomore year is when I was like, oh, now I'm realizing how important or how much I enjoy this, love this, and friendships and the bonds I created on my wrestling team definitely was a prime factor. But from third grade to high school, I'm like, man, I don't want to do this, because my mindset at the time was, I want to do martial arts. That's what my focus is. And of course, we all know that, at the end of the day, it's all martial arts. So that's something that I realized later on. And to be honest, that's like, I wouldn't say regret, but I wish I put more emphasis and put more time into my wrestling career. So after high school, usually it's a very high level of people go on a collegiate level. And of course, again, martial art being my focus after high school, that was kind of my time to not switch gear, but move on from wrestling. And I'm like, man, I wish I could have done more while I was still a part of wrestling. So, but yeah, that was something like, my dad kept me in, and I'm very, very, very grateful that he did, because my grappling skills, my earth skills are where they are because of wrestling. And I think it goes both ways. I think I had success in wrestling because of my background, but also, it goes both ways.
The skills transfer.
I am reminded of this time where we had one of these workshop deals at HQ at your home school, your stomping grounds. And we were drilling some balancing on the earth line. And it was like this situation, I believe, we were both trying to get the kazushi, get the off balance, get our opponent off balance. And I think you were trying to get me off balance. And then I found the opportunity for a throw. But then the next thing I know, I'm on my back. And that just blew my mind. It's like in midair, he transitioned me on my back. It sucked, but it was cool. It was cool that it sucked at the same time. So yeah, you're, whoever your wrestling coach was, that Ohio wrestling is no joke, right?
Yeah.
And I never knew that there was wrestling at the third grade level, right? I grew up in North Carolina, and it's not that huge a thing, but I think in the Midwest or Great Plains or whatever region you want to call it, it's huge. It's pretty big.
Yeah, especially in Ohio, it's very. I mean, nowadays you start as young as 4 or 5. I mean, you see kids start that young, and it's very big in Ohio, Iowa, Pennsylvania, a lot of those states.
I know. And also I was talking to my wife Becky last night, and we were just kind of reminiscing about some things, and she brought up I guess the first time she saw you in action, or probably the first time either of us saw you in action, because I remember when I started martial arts probably about 15, 16 years ago, like your dad would bring you to the trainings and stuff, but you'd be like drawing on some book or something. And like at the time I was like, I was wondering, is this kid gonna grow up to be a martial artist, or is he just gonna be an accountant or something? Like, but Becky was talking about, I think it was 2009, and there was a tournament called the Battle of Cincinnati, and it was they had like all kinds of different martial arts. I guess they were trying to make it kind of like the Battle of Columbus. I don't know who organized it.
I think it was Grandmaster On, I believe.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I thought it was cool. And I'm kind of surprised thinking about it that there weren't more battles of Cincinnati, because they had Taekwondo. We actually went to see my brother spar as well, because he's a 4th degree at this point in Taekwondo. And we remember watching you spar Taekwondo, and then just a few minutes later step into, I think, a Sanda ring. And we were just it was kind of amazing, because I think you were probably about 10, 11.
Oh, I think what it was pancration.
Pancration, yes. Yeah, like what Boss Rutan used to do, right? And just being able to switch between the different rule sets, was just kind of impressive, because, I'm kind of like your dad. Like with my students, like I don't tell them they have to, and I don't know, hopefully your dad's not going to get mad at me, but I don't tell them they have to compete. I don't really even suggest it. I just say, do you want to compete? And usually there'll be somebody that wants to test their skill. But as adults, like it's tough to adjust to the different rules a lot of times. So, and maybe it is easier for a kid, because I don't know the way the brain works or something, but we just thought that was super impressive. 10, 11 years old. Yeah.
I think you brought up a good point. While of course martial arts, it goes much beyond competition or the sport side of martial arts. I definitely would say, for me personally, and everybody's different, no right or wrong, but people are motivated by different things. And for me, it was, if you ask when am I in the best shape, the most disciplined, I'm in the best shape of my life is because of competition, or when I'm in competition season. So it's really a motivation to, maybe people are motivated by rank or just learning, purely by learning, but it really push me. I'll go get Chick-fil-A every once in a while. But, when I'm like most strict, most disciplined, and like I said, best shape of my life is when I'm getting ready for competition. So it's definitely a big motivator.
So that having something to focus on, I guess, the secondary effects are just like your lifestyle.
Yes.
Like being able to adapt to a lifestyle which kind of provides you all kinds of benefits.
Yeah.
So that's super interesting. So, I think to all the trainers and martial arts instructors and even seeing senior students, like if you're working with somebody, you got to find out like what's gonna motivate them. Mm-hmm. So for you, it would be competition. For another guy, it might be a belt. For another guy, it might be, reaching some level of intellectual understanding, or even like a qigong experience and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's cool. I was curious. I know we talked about a little bit. Like you have some kryptonites. Like peanuts,
food allergies.
Yeah, is it shellfish too? Like shrimp?
So the interesting, essentially it's just shrimp. So shrimp and lobster. I love oyster. I love clams. But just shrimp and lobster. Don't like me, or I don't like them.
Wow. And then you and your dad both have asthma, right?
Yes. I grew up in and out of the hospital when I was young because of asthma and food allergies. And today it's very like, maybe if I get sick, then I'll have minor symptom of asthma, but I pretty much, I would say, outgrew for the most part. Yeah. Because of martial arts, because of competition, getting in that shape and mindset,
So hopefully, I don't know, you might have to get the ref to check people's gloves for peanut dust and stuff. Hopefully if anybody listens to this, they're not gonna.
Yeah, my best friend from high school always joke around. It's like, if there's any way we need to bring him down, it's this little
peanut butter on your gloves.
Peanut butter gloves. Yep. All right. So I was curious, like, how do you, like, is there any special training methods that maybe you might want to educate other people that have the same type of conditions and stuff? Any training methods to kind of mitigate the effects of, say, your asthma, I guess, mainly? And
well, I guess without getting into I can get into that a little bit, but I just remember like one of my first great opportunities was training at the Olympic Training Center, and I believe I was like 12 years old, so still quite young. This was for Taekwondo at the time, and I just remember like having major issues. We're outdoors, the humidity, Colorado Springs, right? And I doing stairs, and of course this was I think I was amongst the youngest, but anywhere from maybe 10 to you have adults in this camp. I think it was like a week long, maybe, or maybe a little bit longer. And at the beginning of it, I remember my asthma getting triggered, the humidity, running stairs, thousands and thousands of stairs. I remember just falling behind. And me personally, I think this is a personality thing, something you can't really teach, but I was just so competitive. I was very determined, like, man, I'm like behind everybody. I want to see the back of heads of anybody. I want to be at least next to them, right? So that was kind of what pushed me, is that, this sucks, but tomorrow will be easier, just that mindset. But as far as like specific things, if it comes to asthma, as far as I know, there's no cure to it. But I think being in shape, it makes a difference. Even the food that I put in, like we always say, food is the real medicine, right? And that's the truth. It's when I'm eating healthy, when I'm focusing on my, meal prep, that makes a huge difference. And when I'm in shape versus where I'm eating junk food or I eat whatever I want, I'm not training every day, then that's when I have the most symptoms.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
That's just maybe not the answer people want to hear, but it's the truth. It's just eating healthy, the lifestyle that you do day in, day out. It's what makes the difference.
So because you meal prep and you don't allow yourself to really get out of shape during the off season, and really you can't, because you your full-time job is running that school, right? And so you have to kind of be in top shape to set the example for the most part. So basically just keeping the level of physical fitness and watching what you consume, I guess.
Yes.
Also kind of lessens the effect of the asthma.
Absolutely. And I would say this is another story, but like ever since COVID, the vaccines, all of that, I've had some issues come up with regarding, asthma and health. And it's been kind of a, if anything, irritating process, but it's, again, the best I feel is, of course, in Ohio, we got all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Winter time, and sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah.
Or even when it's from winter to spring, the transition from cold to hot, I can feel it. I can feel the difference. But again, it's like sugar is a big thing. Looking at this cookie. No, I still, I think everything's about balance.
Balance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, good. So, train and eat right. And I think you hit you touched on something that I think a lot of people might not consider is the mental game you have to play with yourself to, in your case, get up those stairs. It reminded me, I say this with the utmost respect, but you know how crazy my Sifu is. Mm-hmm. So, the standard Kung Fu warm up was what? Jumping jacks, push-ups, crunches, squats. Right. So at one time when I was coming up, he wanted us to work up to 100 of those, 100 each, right, in class. And
the Shaolin Temple way, right?
Which, I think as a group, the highest I remember doing was 80 or 85, right? But I would train that. I would come home, go down the basement, sometimes right after class, or on days that I wasn't going to class, I would try to just work on my endurance for the jumping jacks, push-ups, crunches, and squats. I could never get 80 or 85 on my own. Mm-hmm. Like I could cumulatively do that. Like I might have to take, I'd take some breaks.
Take a break. Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how I trained for my Black Sash test. I would just do as many as I could do and take as little rest as I could stand and then jump back on it. Mm-hmm. But I think the most I ever did by myself at one time was maybe 50 of each thing. Yeah. Or maybe 60, but like 85 was just, that's too much. Mm-hmm. But when you find something to focus on, like when you get in that class and you're with the group, and you see everybody, or you sense everybody working, hard, that energy I think subconsciously makes you try harder. So maybe like when you're running those steps with the Team USA, maybe if you were by yourself, you would have been like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I tell, we kind of in the last 5 or 6 years grow the competition team back up at the headquarters. And I tell my guys all the time, it's like, you guys need be grateful for having a team, because doing it alone, like even today, it's like going on the track. We do our summer training on the track, doing sprints, nothing necessarily martial arts specific, but we got to get those sprints done. Oh man, it sucks by yourself. And it still sucks with other people, but it sucks a little less.
A little easier. Yeah. I mean, with what you said, it made me think of like one time, I think it was my yellow-white test, and we made you mad right before the test. I forget what, like some people were late coming in or something.
Yeah, you guys were late, milling around.
And like especially at that point, I could not do 50 push-ups, and you were upset. So you're like, all right, we're gonna warm up with 50 of each, and then we're gonna do the test. And I'm like, I can't do this. And like surprisingly, I was like, I was dead after it, but I was able to do the 50 of them. And it's like, at home, there's no way I would have been able to do that myself. I had trouble doing 20, but for some reason with the group, when everyone's doing it, it just like makes you push yourself harder. And
this is one of those like back in my day stories. That 50 was like a regular Tuesday, Thursday when I was underbelt. But the props and big thanks to my Sifu Master Lambert, because he kind of ingrained, you got to, like you were saying, Master Vincent, like you got to think about what you think is impossible You know, you shoot for what's impossible. So yeah, maybe we never got to that 100, but if I never shot for 100, I'd never make 85.
Yeah.
You know, I would be stuck at 40, 50, you know, so.
I would say at that point too is kind of when I got hooked too, because I was like after that class, like I was just beat, but it was like, wow, I can do a lot more than I realized I can do. And from that point, it was just, you know, I wanted to be at every class. I never wanted to miss, kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool. So switching gears, I was thinking about, you were talking about, you mentioned, you know, your MMA fight, and I'm assuming that you want to get more of those.
Yes, it's not. I will say, at least for this year, it's not a priority. Yeah. I wanted to get one in. I've been trying to, in the last 2 years, get one, and so finally we got one with the whole, you know, last name and everything. And but yeah, so definitely probably towards the end of the year, because I got some a series of Sanda tournaments, and then I was mentioning about that pro fight that I have coming up. So those are kind of my focus. So
I didn't think about it before I watched the fight, but I mean, you could have fought under any banner. You could have fought under Parks TKD, Parks MMA. You could have just fought under yourself. You could have fought under just, you know, Shaolin Kung Fu, but you did rep Shaolin Wing Chun. And I noticed you walked out with the Yip Man theme remix, right? And that announcer, I could have, he just totally butchered the name of the art. But I know hopefully they'll get it right next time. But I was curious, like, so with your MMA efforts, are you just trying to be the best MMA fighter given your skill sets, or are you conscious of the goal of proving the effectiveness of Wing Chun in the ring or the cage?
I think the latter. It really, I would say my biggest motivation as far as MMA specifically is displaying our art. You know, being the guy that walks in, being traditional. I'm a traditional martial artist. I always will be going into the ring, because, you know, MMA at the end of the day is a sport. It's a very popular sport, not to mention in the U.S. It's just constantly growing and so popular, but it's, you know, half the entertainment is the things that you see that's far from martial art ethics, right? And so, and again, not right or wrong, that's entertainment. That's what we like to see. And, but for me, my goal is to display traditional martial arts. Of course, our art, Shaolin Wing Chun, that's the ultimate goal, ultimate driver for what I do. Of course, it's personal as well. Like, I enjoy it and kind of challenge myself. But to be honest, like, I mean, at the amateur level, getting prepared for this MMA fight, it was kind of underwhelming because, you know, I'm traveling the world competing with the best of the best. And, you know, right before that in November, I fought, you know, one of the best in the world in Sanda, and the skill set wise, doesn't compare, you know, to, you know, a local, no disrespect to any individual, but you got people training in their garage for 3 months and they're fighting MMA, right? Two lifetime martial artists. But with combat sports like Sanda, you got people like, these are professionals, you know, although it's a amateur level status competition, they're professionals. They're doing this full time and doing it their entire lives. So it's definitely different. Yeah, because on the world stage, those guys are typically funded by their governments. Right? There's a lot of pride there. Good. I'm excited to see that. I kind of yearn for the traditional martial artist, and I thought it was. I mean, I don't expect anything less of you, but it was a class act coming in with the bow, and that's the way it should be. So I remember like when, you know, John Jones was starting out, and how phenomenal it was to watch him, and he conducted himself that way as well starting out, and then it just fell apart. It was just that's usually was what all an act. A lot of the right. But I guess
they have to like feed into that entertainment side of it. Like, they want to get a big buzz about their fight, so they have to like have beef kind of thing. I will say there's some psychological strategies to that, but I mean, everybody has their own personal line where it kind of draw, you know. I mean, but and then you take a look at a GSP, somebody like that, and he's just like,
he's like class all the way.
Yep.
You know, so
One of my favorites.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that. So that being said, like, you know, I know you probably spend half, 3/4 of your life in gyms and slapping leather and stuff. So I was curious, like, what are the biggest misconceptions you hear from other fighters about Wing Chun, or what do you hear in the locker room or on the mat where that just gives you like the shake my head moments, right?
Man, I think like it's almost like, oh, we hear this all the time because we talk about it a lot, but it's definitely, you know, unfortunately, the martial art world is still separated. And simply put, as we always say, it's always the individual, not the art.
Yeah.
And the training methods that the person is going through, if you're punching a bag on the wall 100 times, yeah, you might have a good technique, but at the end of the day, it's totally different when someone's punching back, not letting you punch, right? And just little things like it's the training methods, anything you train, you're going to get good at. Taekwondo, why are they so good at kicking? Because, well, that's what their focus is, not because they have a secret technique. It's just, you know, that's what they focus. That's what they train. So what you train is what you're going to get good at. If I do, you know, multiplication over, I don't know, division, I'm going to be better at multiplication, right? It's the same concept. And it's just, I think, what they see, not to mention what they see in the movies too, is like, oh, this is Wing Chun. And maybe people saw my MMA fight and I finished with a submission. I'm like, oh, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, or, you know, and it's like, well, my going to the fight, I'm focusing on center, occupying space, and getting superior position. And that is Wing Chun, and you know, in the core. And you don't see that. You know, what they see is the techniques.
Right.
But I will say, you know, there's a lot of bad. It's not just Wing Chun. There's a lot of bad traditional martial arts out there that you know, give us these bad reps or misrepresentations. So I understand why people will say, oh, that doesn't work, or, oh, this is not an effective art. But again, and that's why, again, going back to this is why I want to do MMA, not so much because, you know, that's my personal pursuit, but just to kind of relieve some of that misconception.
Man, I had something to say about that, and I completely lost my train of thought. Super good thoughts, Alex.
I mean, I don't know. I just love that there is someone in MMA trying to represent traditional martial arts, because it's, I mean, like, I try not to let it affect me, but it's painful sometimes seeing all this stuff online. Like, everyone's saying that doesn't work, that would never work, and it's like I'm doing this stuff, and like I've used it in real in sparring. Like, I know that it works, but there's just so many misconceptions about it. It's just,
so you reminded me what I was going to get at. You also made me think of something else, which I'll probably forget in a second. But so you reminded me of, so I think the casual observer, the casual MMA fan watcher is going to look at your fight and they're not going to see a shred of what they think is Wing Chun. But when I watched the fight, you know, and your dad said it on his podcast. He mentioned that Wing Chun is a conceptual art, right? And so when you were talking about, you know, you're looking to attack center, occupy center, get the superior position, and you know, going for the submission, knockout, and whatever the case may be. Those are solid Wing Chun strategies. And that's what I try to get my students to focus on, is the strategies. I constantly tell you guys, the strategies are going to be the same. Occupy center, superior position, finish. It's the tactics that are going to change. And even then, you know, I think your casuals are going to see you do like a kicking, striking combo. Yeah, you close the gap. They're going to see maybe some knees, elbow. I don't think you threw any elbows, but I think you threw some knees.
In the clinch.
In the clinch. And then they're gonna see you guys jockey for a takedown, and then you eventually got the takedown. Well, sorry about the spoiler, but you got the takedown. It's still a fun fight to watch. You got the takedown, and you finished with the Americana. But there's still Wing Chun in there because one of the signatures of Wing Chun, is Chi Sao, right?
Yes.
Do people not think you didn't have to work on your sticking skills in the clinch?
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, and then to me, like, what is grappling? What is jiu-jitsu but body to body Chi Sao? I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, everything that like anybody will see in the fight, if they go back, it's against the cage. I think half of the fight was against the cage, and to the public eye, they'll be like, not much is going on, or he's not doing a whole lot. But I actually trained this prior to, because I think that's where I'm a little bit less familiar against the cage. And biggest thing, I was in there telling myself, stay calm and maintain the bridge and maintain, I always had space between us. Yeah. And he was working for the takedown. He was trying to work. And, I was just kind of relaxed. People were like, oh, he's got him against the cage. And to most people, they'll say he got the superior position because I'm against the cage. But again, it was just waiting for the moment. And like you said, the takedown was there when it came out. When we got off the cage, boom. So just kind of waiting for those moments. Maintaining the range, right? Because as Wing Chun guys, we see the value in maintaining that uncomfortableness, right? We don't want to get too far out where we have to rely on jabs, cross, and kicks. That's too much time. We don't want to totally commit to body contact because then we're committing to the ground. But if we maintain, because you could have maintained that range and maybe he gave you an opening for an elbow, right? Or a knee or a knockout shot, but it just so happened, I'm just conjecturing here, I feel like that he felt like his best opportunity was to take you on the ground. And then you did to him what you did to me. And you turned his throw into your throw. But I swear I got more air when you threw me. Like, what do you weigh in? Like 150? I fight 145.
Fight 145, and I'm like 100 pounds more. So that's just a testament to this young man's skill and ability. But I feel like your opponent was like, I need to take this guy to the ground.
Well, he came out with those real nice kicks, and I feel like immediately he's like, oh, I'm not gonna. That's not gonna work out. So,
but it was a super entertaining fight, and I love that I love the short fights. I like seeing, I like seeing the display of skill, like the flow between the techniques. I don't want to see people just duke it out, or like the one fight with the other guy we're trying to get on, your buddy
with T1, Ethan.
T1, EJ, Ethan. Like that, his opponent just laid on him. Just was like the smothering strategy, I guess. And that doesn't
just
really
try to control. He won basically because he just controlled it the whole time, but he didn't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, I digress. I don't want to down talk anybody's fight style, but just personally, that's just the way I feel. I want to see action, but I want it to be quick. I think because then that gives you something to shoot for. Because in reality, like if you have to use this stuff for self defense, you're not gonna lay on the ground with somebody, right? I actually saw something on Facebook. I don't know if you saw this post or this fight, but I guess there was a MMA fight. I don't know if it was UFC, and a guy bit another guy.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh man, no, I didn't.
And it was like you could see the teeth marks in the bicep,
and it looked like the dude that was biting him kind of had the better position too. I was like, why is he biting him right now? Yeah, and I guess he got kicked out of the fight. Yeah. I saw something saying that he'll probably get kicked out of the UFC.
But that's a terrible. That's definitely bad sportsmanship. Yeah. But it kind of made me think, hey, if I get jumped, biting definitely is an option.
That's fair.
I will bite somebody.
Well, yeah.
Would you bite somebody?
I always say if my family member's on the line, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
If I'm being attacked. Yeah.
So it goes back to our Zen philosophy, right? Time and place. Everything in its time and place.
Yep.
You kind of touched on like growing up and stuff. Just wondering, any pressure being the eldest son of a kung fu master?
Well, I think this is something that maybe people are curious about. Yeah, I mean, I remember, I guess the answer, yes, at times. I remember at 5 years old, people are asking me like, "Oh, are you going to take over someday? Are you going to be the next grandma?" I'm like, I'm playing with my Power Ranger figures here, you know? They're asking me like, "Are you going to replace your dad?" And it's like,
I'm a child.
I'm here. And, even when I got older, my answer is simple. Like, I'm never going to replace him, what he's done. Maybe I can carry it on, keep the ball rolling, but, I can't become who he is. And he always talks about, don't become, me. Otherwise, you just be a worse version of me, be the best you can be. And I think that's what's special about our family. We don't say like, this is the way to do it. There is a way for you to do it. And this system is just a guide, right?
It was very nice to hear you say that, because I think in this culture, it's like, it's not even so much I don't know if even competitive is the right word, but in Western culture, American culture, like we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people and comparing ourselves to these standards that we think we need to meet, but we kind of lose sight of the fact that everybody is different. And that's something that the martial arts taught me. Like most of the time, I don't need to be better at Alex at something. I don't need to be better than you at something. I just need to focus on being the best, unlocking the best me, whatever that means. And, martial arts, it seems like a lifetime journey. Because I don't know if I've found that. I don't know if I've unlocked that. I don't know if I think there's so many areas of life, to explore. Like, how do you know, like if you keep doing the same thing, you kind of have to, kind of push your boundaries and your comfort zone a little bit, I guess you could say. But, so I'm glad you said that. But yeah, that's wild that people are asking me these questions when you're
I think especially as I got older and in competition, I will say I do well with pressure. Like I like that. I mean, I remember in Italy, I was, this was right after my major surgery, my first big injury that I had coming from that. So it was kind of like, we'll see kind of how it goes, and made it to the finals. And guess who I fought in the finals? The Italian team member, right? So then, of course, the entire auditorium, the entire venue, you can imagine who they were cheering for. There, you hear, if you watch the videos, you go back, Italy, and I love it. I love that pressure, and it just kind of pushes me even more. Yeah.
Cool. I tell my students that, with sparring and fighting is really one of your only chances to be really free. Because I remember when I was coming up under Master Lambert, and, we'd have our sparring class, and it was kind of, he does things in an old school way. Like, when I first got there, I don't think there was any like power restrictions, but like he'd go like, okay, you guys go 80%, dial back, and, over time as an instructor myself, I'm like, if I want you guys to go 50%, I'll tell you to go 20%.
Yeah. I was just thinking that. I was like, you say 80%, I'm probably basically going 100%.
Yeah. So it was kind of wild. It was like kind of a fight club in those early days in a sense. And so, everybody, it didn't matter who you were, like white sash, blue sash, man, woman, child,
just fighting anybody.
We're geared. He'd be like, all right, gear up. And we'd be geared up, and we'd be standing in a line, and everybody, it would be quiet. It'd be like we were in church, because everybody was just like nervous about it. And then I'd probably be the most nervous one, but I was like the seeing, I'm the senior student, so I'm always up first. But when he said go, it's like, any thought of anticipation or hesitation left, and I was forced to just rely on my body intelligence, and just I was forced to live in the moment, and that was kind of true freedom, And then the little round is over, and then I can think about, then my mind's racing. It's like a VCR, I'm rewinding and playing back things, what I do right, what I do wrong. And
I need to get there. I feel like I've gotten better about that, but I'm in my head too much. I think that's my main issue. It's hard for me to get out of my head. I'm just always anticipating or thinking about what just happened, and I need to figure out how to live in the moment better.
Advice for him, Master Vincent.
I mean, there's always, like you were talking about earlier, like tactics and strategies. That's always something we can work on. And again, it's kind of like I can never, like, people will ask me, like, if there's something that I need to see you at least do something, at least even shadow move or something. Because again, how even with our competition team, how I train a heavyweight is going to be way different than a lightweight, right? And that's where we talk about where people get attached or restricted. I'm not a good coach if I'm going to teach a 200-pound guy versus a 100-pound lady. It's going to be completely different. So in that sense, it's like, okay, there's always things for you specifically, but I think the biggest thing I can say in general is experience. There's no shortcuts. And I talk about with our students, people that are more focused on the rank or just, hopping. And it's like, there's no shortcut. Yes, you can come 6 times a week versus 2 times a week, right? Yeah, then that will make your time quicker, but there's no shortcuts. It's just experience. It's like, even for myself, I feel like I need more experience at that world level. At this Sando World Championships, it's just experience, putting more time into it.
So it's my responsibility. I just got to get you more sparring time in. And I guess you could start fights, I guess, on your own, but I don't know anything about that.
I'm not going to start fights on my own.
You can work on your biting, your street bites. All right. So yeah, I think I got one more thing. So if you weren't fighting, if you weren't competing in martial arts, or let's say you weren't doing martial arts, what do you think you'd do?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I've always, literally martial arts has been my entire life. So, but competition has been a big part of my life. But I've always said, I want to have a family in the future, and I want to be one of those fathers that are running around with their kids, and that's just a personal passion of mine. And I never had the intentions of competing all my life, because we always say competition means the end. So but even then, I'm even at that phase where I'm teaching, coaching, as well as still competing myself, and I find just as much motivation or passion in teaching, helping others. And so maybe you're talking about without martial arts, well, I think it'd still be finding myself helping others to be their best self.
Okay.
Martial arts is just one vehicle.
Yeah.
I'm biased. We're biased. I think it's one of the best vehicles, but I think there's still vehicles outside of, I guess, martial arts that help people become their best self. So
you could help people, I guess, if you were you could be like a wrestling coach. Technically wrestling to us is a martial art, but you could be, soccer coach, counselor, something like that. So you just, I get it. Yeah, it is satisfying to help people. That's why I keep Alex and his bros and sisters around, because I get something from it. Yeah. So I get that. I get that part. So let's finish it up with tell the people what you're up to, what's your next big thing, how, if you want to plug your socials or plug any products or anything, go for it.
Yeah. So my current focus is, again, we're talking about the unique. My ultimate goal is getting this last world title for myself, and that's kind of the next big thing. And the Sando World Championships, getting that in the Wushu Federation, that's kind of my focus. But of course, that's every other year. We just had our World Championship actually hosted here in the U.S. and coming out of a tough loss, and again, that could have been something. Maybe it's not mine, or just more motivation. And to me, it's always been more motivation. Those tough losses are more motivating than I think the wins. But anyway, so that's kind of my pursuit this year. We have team trials for Pan American Championships. So kind of using that. Again, my goal, especially coming out of November, is to just compete as much as I can. And because that's the major disadvantage that we have U.S. athletes compared to those, you said, like you said, fully funded athletes, is they compete once a month. They're training 6 times a day, 6 times a week, twice a day. And so just trying to compete at that level. And
these are Sonda competitions.
Correct. Sonda.
Sport of Sonda.
So this year, like I said, team trials, Pan American Champions, get my first international gold medal in Sonda, in the Wushu Federation. And then next year is World Championships again. It's actually going to be in Brazil. And speaking of Brazil, so also at the beginning of May, I just signed with a new, I think I mentioned this at the beginning, with Combat Taekwondo. I don't know if you guys ever seen Combat Karate.
That's what it made me think of, yeah.
So I don't know if they're completely separate, but I don't know if maybe they modeled off of Combat Karate, but they started this professional league because, long story short, Taekwondo has come from a fight into more of a game. Yeah. And that's something that I say, I guess, unbiasedly, because I was a part of Olympic Taekwondo for most of my life. And so I can kind of see the evolution and understand both sides. But yeah, so they're trying to bring that back. And so I'm going to be traveling to Brazil at the beginning of May for that bout.
Is that like full MMA? Like, there's like ground fighting and stuff? Full
contact. We'll be fighting in a cage. And of course, they're going to tailor it to bring out Taekwondo characteristics. And so there's altered rules like no kicking below the waist, for example, but grappling is allowed. One of the big things is no catching kicks, which is, as you guys know, a big part of our art and a big part of Sonda specifically. So
you say grappling is not allowed?
It is allowed. It is allowed. But we can't catch kicks.
Can't catch kicks.
But we can do takedowns. I can do a double leg, and 10 seconds on the ground.
Okay.
So after 10 seconds, they'll reset you.
Yes. Yes. So they'll literally count, like, while I saw the previous card in December, and when they go to the ground, they'll go 1, 2, they count to 10 and then stop, and then they get back up.
But in those 10 seconds, like you can do a submission kind of thing?
I'll have to double check, triple check. So I didn't see any submissions. I don't know if that's because that's not allowed or because people were just focusing on grounding and pounding.
Yeah.
Because again, they're pulling in. You have Taekwondo Olympians or kickboxers that are coming into this league. They're trying to bring out Taekwondo, and so a lot of their focus.
Yeah, and 10 seconds isn't a whole lot of time to get a submission.
Yeah,
so
I feel like if they allowed submissions, that people would try to rush the technique, and it would lead to a break because they're trying to get the person.
That's true.
Because they know they only have 10 seconds, so they're gonna rush that to see if they can make them tap quicker.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's kind of scary. That'd be scary, but yeah.
So I have that at the beginning of May. And
what is the name of the promotion? Is it just Combat Taekwondo?
Taekwondo, Combat with a K.
Combat with a K.
Yeah. It will be on ESPN Plus, so people can tune in that way.
That's what I wanted to ask too, like how to watch it.
So unfortunately, it's in Brazil, so like Kentucky, you can't just go travel. But it will be on ESPN Plus, so I think people can tune in. Yeah.
Cool.
It's exciting.
Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about?
Oh man, thank you again for having me. And I can talk about this all day. This is my life, and it's maybe I'll just finish with this. Martial art has taught me that my mental, I guess, what I remind myself every day. I always say this is always be happy, never be satisfied. And when sometimes people hear that, people are like, what? Never be satisfied. Then life is going to be terrible. Well, I think if you understand it in my context, I'm always going to be happy. I'm always saying, there's a time, place, everything. But I feel like, to me, being satisfied means you're not growing. You're stopping. There's no passion. There's no pursuit. So I'm never satisfied. If I get a world championship, I'm happy, I'm grateful, I'm excited, but I'm not satisfied. That's not enough.
That's like saying I'm done. You're not done.
Yeah. And then beyond competition, like of course, like I said, I'm not going to be an athlete the rest of my life, but okay, when I'm done being an athlete, what's the next big thing? What's the next gold medal pursuit for me? And so, never be satisfied, but always be happy.
Right on.
Yeah.
Something to meditate on.
Sir.
All right, Alex, take us out.